I decided to write a book about Philippine culinary heritage because I felt that we were losing something. When I'd ask people about recipes or ingredients, they'd be at a loss for answers. And that's when I started doing my research. But I felt it was too selfish for me to keep it to myself, so I started writing this book. I went around the country and realized that Filipino cuisine is much more complex and much more interesting than we try to portray it. It was such a revelation that Filipino cuisine is not just about the food, but it connects us to who we are and even to our indigenous spirituality. And it made me realize who I am as a person. When we talk of the identity of a Filipino, it's important that we not only talk about what we have today, but what we have lost. When you look into Filipino indigenous cooking, you would realize that the connection to nature and the connection to the spirit is a very important aspect. Cooking is actually a set of values. It's how you choose your ingredients, how you choose to cook, on how you choose to serve your food. We have the mechanical part of cooking, but the values in how we cook is lost. I really want my readers to feel a sense of pride in being Filipino. I really want people to connect to the cooking, to the cuisine, find themselves as Filipinos and take pride in our own heritage. With all the influences from East and West that made its way to the country, Filipino cuisine enjoyed a transformation of sorts, adding different facets to its identity. Filipino food, as it would seem, was well on its way to carving a distinct character of its own. As the age of modernity dawned, the Industrial Revolution propelled many changes across the world. Industrialized nations were overtaking old empires.
When the Americans came here, you have to understand that it's already like the turn of the century. It's like 1899. And it's also the tail end of the Industrial Revolution. In fact, Industrial Revolution was already full-blown and being practiced in Europe and in America.
The Americans had an industrial mind. They used science, politics, and engineering to be able to conquer the world.
And at this time, America was ready to take in colonies in order to demonstrate its status as a world power. So she has been looking for the former Spanish colonies like Cuba, Puerto Rico, and then the Philippines in order to show itself as a member of this growing global community of world powers.
Located in a strategic area in the region and brimming with natural resources, the Philippines was a tempting target for any country seeking to expand its power and influence in Asia. The Spanish-American War ended colonial rule in the Philippines. With the Treaty of Paris, the Philippines acquired a new colonial ruler as Spain ceded its sovereign powers to the United States. During the time, America could be described as the modern colonizer. They understood the technology of war and had the resources to conquer any nation.
Well, the two most important programs that the Americans brought here during the colonization period are education and nutrition. And with that came sanitation, and basically they institutionalized the health program in the country.
The American colonial period was concerned with orderliness, cleanliness, sanitation.
One of the most important issues that the Americans faced when they colonized the Philippines was disease. The contamination of food and food poisoning was one of the biggest causes of these diseases. And unhealthy food practices was one of the reasons that these diseases spread among the Filipinos and American soldiers. The Americans systematically imposed a modern health program, changing the country's views on health and hygiene.
They sent doctors and nurses, and in fact, like in Taft Avenue, you see, like the vestiges of American health system. And then, of course, with that, they developed various programs, especially in nutrition.
Education was the tool that the Americans used to spread vital information to change the Filipinos' mindset. One of the objectives of the Americans in the Philippines was to educate the Filipinos, and the home economics program was a very important aspect in relation to that.
The home economics program that was instituted by the American colonists were focused on the role of women as managers of the household, while men has programs that could develop them further in their pursuit of occupations like farming and agricultural activities.
One of the first schools that was established in the Philippines was the Philippine Normal School, where they have a teacher's training program. And home economics is one of the most important subjects during that time because they wanted to introduce the safe way or the sanitary way or hygienic way of preparing food.
It allowed women to be educated in formal schooling, and cooking became more standardized because women could now measure ingredients accurately to follow recipes. Filipino recipes foster the growth of local cuisine within the country.
Although we already have a Filipino food tradition, but this time it was taken from the, from the community, from the provinces, and brought to the school to be codified properly. And in fact, one of the early cookbooks produced in that period was Health in the Tropics. And with that, you have all the ingredients lined up and codified, and they were able to disseminate the information. And because of this wonderful, innovation, which is books, people actually learn how to cook and understand the cuisines of the other provinces.
The Americans put a lot of effort in documenting and developing native recipes, and the home economics program helped homogenize what Filipino food was for the entire country. With the programs that the Americans instituted, the Filipinos gained a more systematic and scientific appreciation to how he cooked and handled his food. The cookbooks that were developed during this era served not only as a framework for our cuisine, but also a repository of history of our culinary culture.